Hi, this is David with David's Tutorials, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you 10 tips on deducting your mileage. How many of you have driven somewhere, and after you get back, you have this forehead slap moment, I could have deducted that mileage? Well, today I'm going to show you what you can deduct and how you can figure that mileage, also where to record it. And if you have never deducted your mileage, then you need these tips even more. Now, this video is one of my most ambitious and extensive tutorials. So what I've done is I have put chapters down in the description section below. So those of you who are impatient and you want to jump ahead to certain parts, just look in the description, click on one of those chapters, and you can go right to it. But I do know that there are other viewers of these videos that enjoy the entire explanation of it. So I've got the entire thing here for you, just so that you can have the full explanation. Tip number 1. Deducting your mileage can put money back in your pocket.
The first thing you need to know is that anything you can legally deduct from your income for tax purposes results in money in your pocket. What does this mean? Well, this means that if you don't take any deductions, you're going to pay a certain amount of taxes, but if you do take deductions, you're going to pay less taxes. What this means is there's more money in your pocket come tax time.
Tip number 2, mileage mounts up over time.
And you have a whole year to pile up the mileage. Now you might be thinking, yeah, that's fine for you, but I don't have all that much mileage that I can deduct. You might be surprised at how much mileage you will be able to deduct over the course of a year, because over the course of a year, it really mounts up. All you have to do is keep really good records of the miles you drive for business purposes. And you say, oh, I don't drive all that many miles. After all, it's only a couple of miles from my office to, for example, the print shop. Right, but how many times do you drive those miles? And if you keep records of all those trips, how much will it mount up to? Well, let's just take that print shop as an example. Oh, let's say it's about 3 miles from your office to the print shop, okay? Round trip, that's 6 miles. If you drive it once a week, over the course of a year, which is 52 weeks, take 2 weeks off for a vacation, that's 50 weeks. 50 weeks times 6 miles, that's 300 miles. And if you drive 300 miles for business purposes, you can deduct 57.5 cents per mile here in 2020, and that mounts up to a total of $172.50 you can deduct off your income taxes. And that means, of course, you don't pay taxes on that amount of money. Of course, there's more than just business miles you can deduct. So let's cover those other kinds of mileage deductions right now. Now let's see if we got any fog on the screen. Oh yeah, that's much better.
Tip number 3, business mileage is deductible.
Now, business mileage is any miles you drive for work except to and from work. Those are not deductible. And except any miles for which you are paid or reimbursed. If you're paid for them, you can't take a deduction. If your vehicle is used 100% for business purposes and not for any personal use, then you're allowed to deduct the entire cost of the vehicle, including all of the maintenance and the depreciation and everything of the vehicle. But that requires a lot of documentation. Whereas on the other hand, if you use your vehicle for both business and personal use, then you may only deduct that portion which is used for business use, and that is the focus of this tutorial. Now, there's 2 ways to calculate the deductible business expense. The first way is you need to itemize everything, and that includes keeping really good track of what's going on, keeping a lot of records, and proportionalizing how much of it is for business and how much of it is for personal use. And you know what? That is a huge hassle. So if you don't want to go through that huge hassle, why don't you do what I do and just take the standard mileage deduction, which in the United States for 2020 for business use, that's 57.5 cents per mile. Now there's different rates for deduction in each of the different categories. We're going to cover the other 2 here in the next tips. But business mileage is the kind of mileage that gets changed pretty much every year. So you need to look up what is the current business mileage rate for whatever year you're wanting to take your deduction. A really great website where you can find the current mileage rate is, curiously enough, currentmileagerate.com. On that site, they have mileage rates going back 20 years, so you can get a good perspective on how the mileage rates for business have changed over the past couple of decades. Of course, the official rates are also on the U.S. government IRS website, and that address is right here and also in a link in the description down below.
Tip number 4, moving and medical mileage is deductible, but there's a catch.
In 2020, the United States IRS tax rate for deducting moving and medical mileage is 17 cents per mile. However, today, thanks to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, most Americans can no longer deduct moving expenses. There's an exception if you're active duty military. Even though the IRS lists a rate for moving mileage on its tax rate mileage page, you need to consult a tax advisor, probably a CPA, before deducting any moving mileage this year and all the way up till 2026. Medical mileage is, of course, any miles you drive to receive medical attention, get medical equipment, anything to do with medical care. That's medical miles driven, and they are deductible. However, there's another catch here as well. The catch is that any medical expenses, including miles, including equipment you buy, including procedures, including bills you pay your doctor, it's all deductible, but only the amount that exceeds 10% of your adjusted gross income. If this all seems a little bit too complex for you, then you probably need to get yourself a professional tax advisor. The bottom line here on tip number 4 with moving and medical miles is that unless you have huge expenses in this area, it's probably better if you just don't worry about it. It's just not worth the hassle.
Tip number 5, charity mileage is deductible.
And this is a biggie. I bet you most people drive a lot of miles for charity and they don't document it at all, and they don't take that deduction. In 2020, miles driven in support of a charitable organization are deductible at 14 cents per mile. I can say this with great confidence because that rate has been exactly the same for the last 20 years, probably even more. The first thing you need to know is that a charitable organization is defined as either a recognized religious organization or an organization that has IRS 501c3 status. That's a tax deductible status with the IRS. If you're not sure, you can go look it up on the IRS's tax exempt organization lookup site. I'll put a link in the description right down there below, but I gotta warn you, you can't look them up by name. Why not? I mean, it would be easy for them to do, but you have to have their EIN or employer identification number. Now, most charities, they'll give you this number if you just ask them. Be warned, I am not telling you to do this, but there's a certain faction of people out there who, if they have a good faith belief that a charity they're driving miles to support is an eligible charity, they just go ahead and take that deduction anyway. And if they're wrong, they'll let the IRS people tell them, oh, I'm sorry, that's not an eligible charity. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll just take it off. Don't do that. You need to make a good faith effort that any charity you're driving miles for is an eligible charity. For example, driving 500 miles to help your brother Bob put brake shoes on his car is obviously not good enough. Driving 500 miles to help build a Habitat for Humanity house, now that would be fine.
Okay, now let's summarize our mileage deductions. The most important thing to remember when you're going to deduct your mileage is you need to document everything. The only time I've ever been audited by the IRS is when I began deducting my mileage. Fortunately, I kept good records, and when I went to see the auditor, I was able to show him the date of the trip, the mileage of the trip, the reason for the trip, and he was very happy with that, and he says, well, we got no problem here. Now, do not think you'll never be audited. You never know, and you very well could be audited. So always keep good records. And that's what the rest of this video is about. So what does all this mount up to as far as money back in your pocket? Well, it could be a lot depending on your personal tax rate. If you don't pay any taxes, then you won't realize any benefit at all from deducting your mileage. The year 2020 tax brackets in the United States range from 10% to 37%. This means you will be able to put between 10% and 37% of that deduction right back in your pocket. From our print shop example we used back in tip number 2, where someone drove 3 miles to the print shop once a week. 3 miles round trip is 6 miles, and they drove 50 of those trips a year, which is once a week except 2 weeks off for vacation. That totaled out to a $172.50 deduction. This means people who deduct that much mileage from their taxes will put back into their pocket between $17.25 and $63.82. Not bad for one single deduction, right? Now, imagine if you kept track of all your deductible mileage. Did your eyes get a little bit wider? Last year, by keeping very careful track of all my deductible mileage, I was able to put back into my pocket more than $600 in taxes I didn't have to pay. Could you use an extra $600 this year? Now that you have a better appreciation of why it's a good idea to deduct your mileage, let's turn our attention to exactly how we can do that. Tip number 6, how to enter your destinations on Google Maps. The easiest way I have found to document mileage is by using Google Maps. Now, you don't have to use Google Maps. You can use any kind of mapping software such as Bing Maps or MapQuest or any other software that lets you have point A and point B and get the mileage between them. When you first go to maps.google.com, it will probably open up to right around your current location because Google reads your computer IP address and gets a location from that. In this example, I'm showing you Springfield, Missouri. You can enter any destination you like one of 3 ways. The first way is you can just type it in. Let's enter an address of 340 East Weaver Road. You'll notice I did not type in the city or the state because the map application assumed I wanted one near to what is being displayed on screen right now. If you type in the address and it takes you to the wrong place, you may need to add your city and your state or your province to get the right address. Another way to enter a destination is to just enter the business name. Let's enter Denny, D-E-N-N-Y''S. When you do this, Google will give you a list of matching places with the closest one at the top of the list. Just click on the one you want. Finally, you can just click on the map. First, let's zoom out to the 1,000 foot scale, which you can see in the lower right corner of the map where the indicated scale shows 1,000 feet. If you click on a named place on the map, it will appear in the details pane. Sam's Club, Corporate Village, Twin Oaks Country Club. Besides clicking on a named place on the map, you can just click on the map itself even if there is not a named place there. When you do this, a small gray pin icon will appear on the map, and in the bottom center of the map you will see a pop-up showing the street and the number ranges on that street. You should play around with clicking on the map and entering places on the map just to get a good feel for how it works. Now let's look at calculating some mileage. Tip number 7, how to calculate single destination trips. Calculating the mileage going just from one point to another on Google Maps is easy. You start by making certain the map is showing the area in which you would like to start, and then enter your starting point using one of the 3 methods we just discussed. Let's show that by example. For the purpose of this example, let's say our starting point is the Memphis Zoo. Hey, for all I know, you may be an employee of the Memphis Zoo. I see it right here on the map, so I click it. It appears in the left panel. From there, let's say you take a job-related trip. Let's say you're going to Walmart because you need cedar shavings for the rodent display. First, click the Directions icon. You'll see the Memphis Zoo in the second spot. This is because Google Maps thinks you want directions to the zoo from somewhere else. Next, click your cursor in the blank destination field and begin typing. WALM. In the list that appears, the top listing will be the closest, so let's click that one. As soon as the information is entered, you will see a blue line appear on the map showing you the shortest route. Note the warning on this route. If we zoom in on the route by holding Control and using the mouse scroll wheel, we can see there are some red and orange segments on our route. These colors indicate the traffic slowdowns that you might encounter, with the darkest red being the slowest traffic. Once you've selected the route you took or the one you want to take, the listing for that route will show you the one-way distance, in this case 11.2 miles. Simply double the distance and you have your round-trip mileage. We will get into documenting that mileage in tip number 9, but this is a simple way to calculate the round-trip mileage for a local one-stop trip. Tip number 8, calculating the mileage on multiple destination trips. What if you have to make a trip that is tax deductible and has multiple destinations? That's a little bit more complicated, but it's still pretty easy. First, use the instructions in the previous tip, number 7, to enter your starting destination and your final destination. In this case, from tip number 7, we ended at the Memphis Zoo and started at our final destination, the Walmart. Make a note of this mileage. In this example, it's 11.2 miles, returning to the start from our final destination. Next, click on the icon in the Directions panel to reverse starting point and destination. This will show you going from the Memphis Zoo to the Walmart, from the start to your final destination. For each intermediate stop on your trip, follow this procedure. First, click the Add Destination icon, then drag it up to between the starting and ending points. Click on the empty field to select it, then add this new destination as we did before. Just type or click. For this example, let's make a first stop at, let's say Lowe's. I begin typing LOWE''S and select the first listing that appears. Notice the new black circle that appears to be directly on our route. If we zoom in on that area, we can see that the Lowe's is right there, right on the way. It has added only 0.6 of a mile to the route, but it's tax deductible, so I'll take it. Let's add one more destination. Let's say we need to meet a representative from another zoo, maybe the one in Louisville, and he wants to meet at Applebee's to discuss our acquisition of an albino albatross. We'll use the same technique to add another destination. First, add a new blank destination line. Next, drag it so it is between Lowe's and Walmart. Type in Applebee's and select the one on Union Road, which is where the other zoo rep wants to meet. When the amended blue line appears, we can see that it's much longer to go to that restaurant if we do it between Walmart and Lowe's. It would be much more efficient if we went to lunch first and then took the rest of our trip. So if you're doing this to plan your trip as opposed to doing it after your trip, then you can go ahead and change your routing right now. To adjust the route, simply drag the Applebee's destination to between start and Lowe's. There. We can now see that we have 13.2 miles starting from the Memphis Zoo, going to lunch, going to Lowe's, and going to Walmart. Add that to the mileage of 11.2 returning from Walmart to our Memphis Zoo starting point, and what we have is our total round-trip mileage for the multiple trip stop. Tip number 9, document your mileage in a spreadsheet. The best way to keep track of your mileage for the whole year is in a spreadsheet. I use Microsoft Excel because of how powerful it is and how easy it is to get a hold of, especially if you have an Office 365 subscription. But you can use Google Sheets or any other spreadsheet that allows you to do this sort of thing. I would suggest that you keep the following information for each of the trips you make that is tax deductible. First, keep the date of the trip. Second, keep the destination of the trip. Third, keep the miles of that trip. And fourth, the reason for the trip, just in case anybody asks. You can, of course, keep far more information than that, if you like, but this should suffice to give you all the information you need, just in case you're ever audited. Tip number 10, enhance your spreadsheet. Make it better. Of course, in any good spreadsheet program, you will be able to sort or calculate totals by business mileage, by moving mileage, by medical mileage, by charity mileage, or several different businesses. If you have several different businesses, for example, you've got your full-time job and you've got your hobby job that you make money from. And if you even put up YouTube videos and are making a few bucks from that, you can have that out as a separate business as well. Whatever you like, you can do this on a good spreadsheet. If you have a lot of trips to the same destinations, you can even set up your spreadsheet to automatically insert the proper mileage into your spreadsheet for each destination. But that's a topic for another video. If you'd like me to make a video on how to put into a spreadsheet the mileage of a destination, if you just put in the destination, let me know that in the comment section down below. I know this video has been kind of long and a little bit involved, but it's information that anybody can use if they want to put more money back in their pocket by deducting their mileage. You can help more people learn about this great information about deducting mileage and putting more money back in their pocket by just sharing it with other people. You can share it on your social media account. You can share it by using the share button down below. You can put the link to it in an email. Just share it around to other people. They'll be happy you did. And if you'd like to tell me and the YouTube robots who recommend this video to other people that you thought it was a worthwhile video, please give us a big old thumbs up. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you. If you're not a subscriber, why not go ahead right now and click that subscribe button and then the bell icon, and YouTube will notify you whenever we post another great tutorial right here on David's Tutorials. Now let me tell you a little bit about how I made this video. I did the walk and talk in my neighborhood, and I didn't realize that it was hot and humid outside, and I was going outside from an air-conditioned house, and in tip number 1 and tip number 2, my camera lens started to fog up. So you can see in between tip number 2 and number 3, I got out the tissue and I kind of polished off the lens, and things look a little bit better after that. Also, I used my Sony video camera and did a handheld thing, and I wasn't real happy with how up and down bouncy it got. But in the future, I think what I'm going to do, I have a iPhone gimbal, and you can see a link to the gimbal in the description down below, and I'm probably going to, on my walk and talks, use that gimbal so that when I go up and down, at least the camera itself stays fairly steady. So if you have any comments on this or any questions on this, feel free to put them in the links down below, or go to www.davidstutorials.com, go to the contact page, and you can send me an email as long as you like. Anyway, I thank every single one of you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.